Hello my dear students. So this is the sixth lecture we'll be dealing with. So fifth lecture was tillage and this will be sixth one. So what you have to do is you have to understand this lecture. So I'll be sending you this video lecture since I have lost so many lectures before. So that's why I'm sending you video lectures, and many students could not attend classes also. So in this lecture we'll be studying about the geometry of the plant, how well we have to fit the plants in the field, and about the crop density, and part of it we have already learned, which is about the plant population. And it starts with the basic competition between the plants, or maybe between the different parts of the plant in a single field. So let's get started. So competition, as every one of us know, that competition is nothing but struggling for the goal, right? So if at all in your schools, if you want to if you wanted to get first place, means always you used to study hard, or maybe in any of the game, if you wanted to play well and get a gold medal, so that's how you used to compete with your friends. Similarly, if the struggle will be there between the plants and also between the parts of the plant in the field. So competition, it is the struggle between the individuals within a population for available resources when the level of resources is below the combined need of the members of the population. Say for example, there are 8 people at your home. Okay, so the food whatever you are getting at home, that is sufficient for 8 people. If at all there if any guest come to your home, say 8 more people to your home, and the food will not be sufficient for 16 people at that time, so what happens? There will be struggle between that limited amount of food between the individuals of your family, right? So if there are 16 people and the food which is there for which is sufficient for 8 people, then definitely there will be struggle, there will be fight between the people, that I want food. Similarly, when the resources like natural resources like water, atmosphere, air, or say soil moisture, which is deficient for the plants to survive, then definitely competition will be there. Like say when there are 8 people at your home and the food is sufficient, nobody will fight for the food there, right? If there are 16 people, then definitely there will be fight for the food. Similarly, when plants are there in the field, and when there is no availability of the resources for the plants to survive, when the level of their satisfaction is different, then definitely there will be struggle between the plants for the survival. So it is a struggle between the individuals, right? It can be individual of the human being or individuals of plant within a population, within a plant population, for available resources. Okay, when available resources like say air, say oxygen, say carbon dioxide, say soil moisture. So when the level of resources is below the combined need of the members of the population, if there are 10 plants in a field and the moisture is sufficient for the 10 plants in the field, if at all there are 20 plants in the field and there is no sufficient moisture, then definitely there will be struggle, there will be competition between those 20 plants for that moisture. So this is as simple as a competition, like what all we know. So competition, what are the different types of competition that occurs between the plants? One is competition for the nutrients. Definitely if there is less nutrients, say the important nutrients which are required for the plant are NPK, we say these are the primary nutrients which are required for the plant. Similarly, there are so many other nutrients which are required for the plants. If at all they fall short, if at all the plants are not having the sufficient amount of nutrients, then definitely there will be competition between the plants, and definitely we can expect that one or the another plant will be may fall sick or may die also, right? And the second competition is for the water. As I just said about the competition between the plants for the soil moisture, when there is limited amount of water, then definitely there will be competition. right? And competition for light, when a tall plant is growing nearby dwarf plant. Say for example, here we have maize plant, and beside this maize plant we have a small rice plant, right? When short and the dwarf plants are there, then what happens? This tall plant, definitely it will shade the short plant, and the shortest plant will not get the sufficient light. Similarly, in the same population of maize, let's take an example of the population of maize only. If at all this plant here, if the plant is again the maize plant only, even while growing, if there is no sufficient space for the plant to grow, then we can expect that this plant may grow dwarf and this plant may grow tall. Then the short plant or the dwarf plant will not get the sufficient light for its survival. So there will be competition for the light as well. And the last one comes the interplant and intraplant competition. As we have already learned about the inter-row spacing and intra-row spacing, the meaning goes same. Just like that, interplant means between the plants in the same field, and intraplant competition means in a single plant, say again the maize plant, in a single plant there will be competition between the parts of a single plant. It can be between the leaf and the flower, or flower and the fruit, right? So there will be competition between the parts of a same plant, then it is called as an intraplant competition. Okay, interplant and intraplant competition. So these are the different types of competition we can expect. One is for the nutrient, one is for the water, one is for light, one is interplant and one is intraplant, and also there will be competition for the space. So these are the different types of competition we can see in the plants. Though we cannot see it with our own eyes, or we cannot experience in the field, but definitely there will be some thin line where this competition occurs. So now coming to the plant population or the plant density, this we have already learned about the plant population. That is nothing but the number of plants per unit area in the crop field is plant population. So there we have inter-row spacing, intra-row spacing, right? So this plant population decides our yield. Yield is nothing but the economic yield which we sell to the market to get money out of it, right? So the maximum yield, to get the maximum yield, whatever the number of plants we require, that should be there in the field. Okay, we have discussed a lot about plant population, so I will not be taking much time on plant population here. And now coming to the importance of plant population. So the first importance is, importance of any crop depends on final plant population. Definitely. Say for example, again we will take the example of maize only. It is recommended that 66,666 plants are required for better yield of maize. Okay, so if the number of plants or the plant population is reduced to, say for example, 40,000, then we cannot get the same yield as 66,000, isn't it? So yield of any crops will definitely depend on the final plant population. So how this plant population is decided, that we know. We calculate the spacing, depending on the spacing, and we get the plant population. And the second one is, the plant population depends on germination percentage and survival rate in the field. Say for example, we have sown this 66,666 seeds in the field. Whether all the seeds will germinate? Definitely not, right? So what we do, we usually sow some extra seeds so that at least we can get 60,000 plants in the field. So that definitely depends on the germination percentage and survival rate in the field. So plant population, the first one is the yield, which is dependent on the plant population, and plant population depends on the germination percentage and survival rate of the plant in the field. Even if all the 66,000 plants germinate, the survival rate, like you must have seen in the field, all plants will not germinate. If at all the plants, all the seeds germinate, means not all the plants will survive very well. Some of will have some problem, maybe because they get attacked with a pest or disease, or maybe because of nutrient deficiency, not all the plants can survive over there. So plant population depends on the germination percentage and survival rate in the field. And third one is, under rain-fed condition, high plant population will deplete the soil moisture before maturity. Rain-fed condition means what? The area which is completely dependent on the rainfall. So in such conditions, what happens if at all, if we have high population, again we'll talk about this 66,000 plants there. High plant population means, if at all, other than maintaining 66,000 plants in the field, if at all, if we maintain around 70,000 plants in rain-fed areas, what happens? This high plant population will deplete the soil moisture before maturity. Before the plant reaches its maturity, this plant, the soil moisture will be depleted. That means the soil moisture will be exhausted by this high plant population. Whereas low plant population will leave the soil moisture unutilized. Say again, if we have 40,000 plants instead of 66,000 plants in the field, means that is low plant population. That will lead to the soil moisture unutilized, right? So if we have high plant population or low plant population, then definitely it is a problem. So it is an important point to note here that we have to maintain an optimum plant population for better utilization of the soil moisture. Fourth point is, when soil moisture and nutrients are not limited, high plant population is necessary to utilize the other growth factors like solar radiation efficiently. So when soil moisture and nutrients are not lacking, when they are sufficiently available to all the plants in the field, then we can have high plant population there, so that we can utilize other growth factors like solar radiation. Obviously all plants need solar radiation for their survival, isn't it? So to efficiently utilize the solar radiation, if we have other factors unlimited, then definitely high plant population we can maintain in the field. And the fifth point is, under low plant population, individual plant yield will be more due to wide spacing, isn't it? So here you take 40,000 in a 1 hectare, means what happens? The spacing between two plants will be more. That means the space available for an individual plant will be more, because of which the the individual plant yield will be more accordingly. So these are some important points you have to note about plant population. If at all, if you don't understand, or if you don't get any of the points, you can note them down and come back to me and ask in the class, and that will be helpful for the discussion as well. I hope you have understood this. Sixth point is, under high plant population, individual plant yield will be low due to narrow spacing, leading to competition between the plants. Definitely, if we have 70,000 plants in the field instead of 66,000 maize plants in the field, what happens? Then definitely the spacing between two individual plants will be very less, and because of which the yield, individual plant yield will be low. And 7th point is, yield per plant decreases gradually as plant population per unit area is increased. Okay, so this is what just I explained with an example of maize plant population. So as we increase the plant population, yield per plant, that means yield per individual plant will decrease as we increase plant population, but yield per unit area increases up to certain level of population. So that level of plant population is that, okay, so that level of plant population is called as optimum plant population. Say for example, what happens, okay, so this is plant population yield, okay, this is yield and this is plant population. As we increase the plant population, what happens? Yield will increase up to certain limit. It will not increase beyond that. When we increase the plant population, yield of an individual plant yield of a single plant will decrease, but yield will increase per unit area. As I told you, instead of 66,666 plants, if we have 70,000 plants in the field, what happens? The yield per hectare will be increased, but yield per plant will decrease because of the narrow space, but yield per unit area will increase. So that level at which we can expect more yield, or at which we get more yield out of that area, that level of plant population is called as an optimum plant population. Optimum means what? Where we get the better yield of the plant. Okay, so the ninth point is, so to get maximum yield per unit area, optimum plant population is necessary. So the optimum plant population for each crop should be identified. So this 66,666 plant, this is an optimum plant population of maize crop when we follow a particular set of rules or particular spacing for the plant. So if at all, if we have increased number of plants or less number of plants, then definitely we can expect here yield here and there. The yield of the individual plant may increase or decrease if at all, if we increase or decrease the plant population, but per unit area the yield will be more. Okay, so you understand this, try to understand these points. If you don't understand, we can discuss later in the class. And now coming to the factors affecting the plant population. Okay, so we here you can just imagine like what might be the different factors which can affect the plant population. Here the first one is the genetic factors, and second one we'll talk about the environmental factors. Okay, environmental factors, what are the different environmental factors which will be affecting? So genetic factors means what? The inherent factors which will be affecting it, like size of the plants, elasticity of the plant, foraging area or soil cover by the plant, or dry matter partitioning. So these are genetic factors, and there are environmental factors like rainfall, fertilizer application, seed rate and all. So we shall discuss first about the genetic factors and then about the environmental factors. So the first one of the genetic factor is the size of the plant. So size of the plant means what? As you can see in the picture here, you can see the different sizes of the plant here, right? So the volume occupied by a plant at the time of flowering decides the spacing of the crop. So you have solved the problems for plant population and all. You must have seen like spacing like 60 centimeter by 20 centimeter, 40 centimeter by 15 centimeter, right? So these spacing are decided based on the volume of the plant which is occupied at the time of flowering. We do not decide spacing based on the vegetative stage, but on the flowering stage of the plant, because up to flowering the plant reaches its maximum vegetation, and after flowering we cannot expect more vegetation out of the plant. So at the time of flowering the vegetation will be more, that means the plant occupies more volume, and because of which we decide the spacing of the crop during this flowering stage. And second one is the plants of red gram, cotton, sugarcane occupy larger volume of space in the field compared to rice, wheat and ragi. So you can just imagine the plant like red gram, how the plant, it is tall and it requires more space, even cotton, sugarcane. But when you compare these crops to rice, wheat and ragi, they occupy very less space, right? So depending on that we decide the spacing of the plant. And third one is, even the varieties of the same crop differs in the size of the plant. Say for example, we have discussed rice varieties a lot, isn't it? Like IR8, IR6 and all. Even between the varieties of the same crop, we can expect different sizes of the plant over there. A plant of one variety can be tall and a plant of another variety can be short, and it depends on the genetic factor, like how the plant has been crossed and what are the different characters that plant has. So this size of the plant decides, like it differs according to the crop. As you all know that pulses have each pulse or each cereal has different size of the plant and they have different spacing of the plant. So based on crop morphology, we decide the spacing of the plant, and that's how this will affect the plant population. If at all, say for example, this red gram, cotton or sugarcane, since they are a long durated crop and they have a long vegetative period, so what happens in such crop means they occupy more area. So what happens, we expand or we give more spacing to such crops. When we give more spacing to such crop, then number of plants or the plant population per unit area will be low. But when you take this rice, wheat or ragi, the plants, the vegetation is less and they require less spacing, and we can expect more plant population there. So that's how the size of the plant affects over there. And second is the elasticity of the plant. Elastic means you must have seen like every pant, even bands, elastic bands you must have seen, like they increase in their size and then come back to their original size. So similarly, elasticity of the plant means it is variation in the size of the plant between minimum size to maximum size. So minimum size to maximum size, how it happens? Minimum size means what? Minimum size of the plant that can produce some economical yield, like little yield we can expect out of that. So that is minimum size. And maximum size means what? Maximum size of the plant that can reach under unlimited space and resources, right? So when there is limitation of resources, then we can expect a little less height of the plant, less yield of the plant. But when we give all the resources in unlimitedly and space is available to the plant unlimitedly, then it grows to its maximum capacity. So that is variation in the size of the plant between the minimum size where it can produce little yield to maximum size when the resources are unlimited. So say when we have minimum size of the plant means, then what happens? There will be more number of the plants in the field. So more population means we can expect little more yield out of that area. When we have maximum size of the plant means the yield per individual plant will be more, but yield per unit area will be less because more space requires for individual plant, and hence the yield per unit area decreases. So do not get confused. It is just the variation in the size of the plant between minimum to maximum size. And third one is the foraging area or soil cover. Here what happens? Here the plant should cover the soil as early as possible so as to intercept maximum sunlight. Without sunlight, plants cannot photosynthesize, right? So when the plant covers as soon as possible so that it can intercept maximum sunlight, and the higher the intercepted radiation, intercepted means when it receives more or higher amount of radiation, more will be the dry matter produced. Dry matter means that is the green part of the plant, like as you see in the picture, this is dry matter we call, other than the yield, economic yield, whatever we get we call it as a dry matter. So when plant receives more radiation, then the dry matter produced will also be more. And third one is closed spaced crops intercept more solar radiation than wide spaced crops. Why? Because in closed spaced crop what happens? Each space, the entire space will be utilized by the plant and there won't be any gap between the plant, and that sunlight which is reaching the ground will not be wasted. But in wide spaced crops what happens? When the plants have more spacing between the individual plant, much of the sunlight will be reaching the ground, and because of which that sunlight will be wasted, that will not be intercepted by the plant. So when the plant covers maximum ground area, then definitely what happens, the photosynthesis process will be enhanced, and therefore the plant population can also be enhanced thereafter. Okay, so this is about the soil cover. And fourth factor is the dry matter partitioning. Dry matter partitioning means what? Dry matter, as I told you, that is the vegetative part of the plant. So this dry matter production is related to amount of solar radiation intercepted by the canopy. Canopy means the above ground surface what you see, the green part, this we call it as a canopy. Okay. So dry matter production, this is dry matter as a whole. Dry matter production is related to amount of solar radiation intercepted by the canopy, which depends on plant density. So more number of plants are there means more solar radiation will be intercepted. More solar radiation intercepted means we can expect more dry matter out of that area. And second point is, as the plant density increases, the canopy expands more rapidly, more radiation is intercepted and more dry matter is produced. So just like what I explained right now. So these are the 4 factors, genetic factors, which will be affecting the plant population. Now coming to environmental factors, there are 4 factors under environmental factors, like time of sowing, rainfall or irrigation, fertilizer application and seed rate. So the first one is the time of sowing, how it affects. You can just imagine that if we delay the time of sowing, or if we sow early sowing, then what happens, there will be difference in the weather conditions and also there will be difference in the soil condition. So because of this, what happens, if there is no sufficient soil moisture, if we go for delayed sowing, then the plant will not grow to maximum expectation, isn't it? So if we go for early sowing, since the weather is not suitable for the crop, it will not grow to maximum extent. Then also the plant population will not be optimum. So this time of sowing, it is subjected to various weather condition when sown at different periods. So among weather factors, day length and temperature influence the plant population. So as low temperature retards the growth, high plant population is required to cover the soil. So when there is low temperature of atmosphere or soil temperature, if there is low temperature less than 10 degrees Celsius, then it will retard the growth. Retard the growth means it slows down the growth of the plant. So in such cases we have to go for higher plant population, so that high plant population can cover the soil. Similarly, for other environmental factors also, it goes the same. If there is no sufficient moisture, if there is no sufficient carbon dioxide of the plant, then we cannot expect more plant population out of that. Okay. Second one is rainfall or the irrigation. So plant population has to be less under rain-fed than irrigated condition. Why? Because rain-fed condition means that is completely dependent on the rainfall. So when there is less rainfall, or rainfall is unpredictable, isn't it? So in such condition, if at all if we go for higher plant population, the entire soil moisture will be exhausted and the plant may die in between the life cycle only. So it has to be kept less under rain-fed condition than in the irrigated, because in irrigated condition, what happens, we know that we have sufficient amount of water and we can supply that amount of water to the plant whenever the plant is in need. So plant population can be more in irrigated area and it can be less under rain-fed condition. And under more plant density, more water is lost through transpiration. Transpiration means what? Loss of water through the plant evaporation. That is plant evaporation. Okay. And under adequate rainfall or irrigation, high plant population is recommended. So this is self-explanatory. There is nothing much to explain over here. And third factor is the fertilizer application. So as we know that plant population, like to maintain optimum plant population, we need to provide nutrients to the plant. So this higher plant population is necessary to fully utilize higher level of nutrients in the soil to realize higher yield. To get higher yield of the plant population, it is necessary that we provide sufficient nutrient to the plants. Okay. And second one is the nutrient uptake increases with increase in plant population. So if we increase number of plants per unit area, then definitely nutrient uptake from the soil will also be more. And third one is high plant population under low fertility soil leads to nutrient deficiency symptoms leading to low yield. So if we have more number of plants in the field, then definitely it leads to loss of soil fertility. Fertility means what? Amount of nutrients present in the soil. So when high number of plants are there, then the fertility of the soil will be lost, which leads to nutrient deficiency symptoms and When there is deficiency symptoms in the plant cannot yield properly, which leads to low yield of the plant. So this is how the fertilizer application affects. And the last environmental factor is the seed rate. So definitely the seed rate decides the plant population, as all we know. So seed rate is what? It is nothing but quantity of seeds sown per unit area, and the seeds viability and establishment rate decides the plant population. So under broadcasting method, what happens? The seed rate is higher when compared with line sowing or transplanting. Okay, so you can just see an example here for rice crop. In direct sowing, 100 kg per hectare we require. In line sowing, what happens then? 60 kg per hectare. When transplanted, we need only 40 kg per hectare. Okay, you can just Google like what are the different methods here, and we have already discussed about the different methods of sowing there. So I am not going to explain again here. Okay. Now coming to the another part of the chapter, that is plant geometry or the crop geometry. So we have two terms here, plant geometry and crop geometry. Plant geometry refers to the shape of the plant. Like say for example, if we have maize crop, how the shape of the plant is there. It is tall, it is thin, but when we take rice crop, it is spreading, it is short. So this shape of the plant tells about the plant geometry. Crop means we talk in terms of group of plants present in the field. So crop geometry means what? Refers to the shape of the space available for individual plants. Crop geometry is altered by changing inter and intra row spacing. So we can change the spacing between the plant, and that's how we can change the geometry of the crop as well. Plant geometry means what? We are talking about an individual plant. Crop geometry means we are talking about groups of plants which have the space availability. That means we talk about the space availability to the plants over here. So this crop geometry can be changed by changing the inter and intra row spacing. Say for example, here area occupied by a single plant is 25 by 15 centimeter, rice plant. So this is very essential to utilize resource like light, water, nutrient and space. So when there are thousands of plants in the field, we maintain this spacing. If at all, if we want to increase or decrease, then we can change the spacing and we can change the geometry of the plant. Okay, I hope you are clear with this concept. Do not get confused between plant and crop geometry. Plant is individual plant, but crop is group of plants what we are talking about. And crop geometry means what? Shape of space of the space which is available, right? So there are different crop geometries which are available for different types of plants. So one is broadcasting. Broadcasting, as we all know, it is a random sown crop, and random geometry will be there. No equal space is available, and resources are either under exploitation or over exploitation. And second one is the square method or square geometry. That means the space available for an individual plant is square. The plants are sown at equal distance on either side. Say for example, 60 centimeter by 20 centimeter, this we have talked. Okay, 60 centimeter means it is long, 20 centimeter it is less. So this forms a rectangle, right? Here one plant, here one plant, and here one plant, and here one plant. So this forms a rectangle. A square planting means what? We have square, like at each corner we have one plant, equal distance between each plant over here. So this is mainly followed for perennial crops, tree crops. Okay, and the advantages of square method is light is uniformly available, movement of wind is not blocked in any way, either this direction or this direction, and mechanization can be possible. Mechanization means movement of the machines or the implements in between the rows of the plant. So that is easy, very easy in square type of planting. And the next one is rectangular type. As I just told you, there are rows and columns. The row spacing are wider than the spacing between the plants. Like between the rows there will be more spacing, whereas in between the plants of a single row there will be less spacing. So that forms a rectangle, as I just told you here, this 60 by 20 centimeter. Okay, so there are again different types of methods, sowing methods under rectangular type. The first one is the solid row. That means each row will have no proper spacing between the plants. I'll show you the picture. You can see here. Between the rows there is spacing, but between the plants there is no spacing at all. It is completely filled, like each that entire row is completely filled with the plants. We do not see any gap between the plants over here. So that is a solid row. There each row will have no proper spacing between the plants, and this is followed only for annual crops which have tillering pattern. Tillering patterns are mainly found in cereal crops. Tillering means the leaves what you see just like a bushy in nature. So that is tillering pattern, and that we find only in cereal crops, and this is mainly followed in annual crops. And there is definite row arrangement but no column arrangement like wheat, like what I just shown you in the picture. And second one is the paired row arrangement. Pair means what? Two. Suppose if there are individual plants spacing like this, in paired row what happens? We shift the rows like this, like we reduce the space between two rows and we extend the spacing between the pairs of rows here. So it is also rectangular arrangement. It if the crop requires 60 by 30 centimeter spacing, and if paired row is to be adopted, the spacing is altered to 90 centimeter instead of 60 centimeter in order to accommodate an intercrop. So the base population is kept constant. Base population means what? The first row which is there. I'll just show you the picture. Here you can see here. This is paired row, like pairs of rows are there, and in between the rows, pairs of rows, we can find a space. So this is paired row system, and you can find in groundnut, you can find it in sugarcane, and it depends wherever. And here also you can see this. Conventional means proper spacing between each row and each plant, but here this is skip row. Skip means one row is skipped after every two rows, and here this is after each row another row is skipped. So it depends on the type what we want to go. So skip row means a row of planting is skipped, and hence there is a reduction in population. This reduction is compensated by planting an intercrop practiced in rain-fed or dryland area. Intercrop means, see, these are the rows of a crop, okay? The first crop in the field. If we want to have another crop in the field, in between the space of the first crop, we'll have the another crop. So this is the base crop, and this is an intercrop. So skip row system is used so that we can accommodate an intercrop over there. So these are the different crop geometries we can have. And fourth one is the triangular method. It is recommended for wide space crops, especially like mango, coconut, and number of plants per unit area is more in this system. So you can see a triangle here. This actually becomes a hexagon here, you can see. So here we can accommodate more number of plants, and specially followed for the tree crops. Okay, so that's all about this chapter. If you have any confusion or if you don't understand anything in this lecture, come back to me in the class and we can discuss later.